Well children, in continuation to the study of the skeletal system, we have practical number 26. It's study of different types of the joints in the human skeleton. Well, what do you call the branch of biology that deals with the study of the joints? Arthrology. See, arthropoda, do you remember that? So, arthros refers to the joint and logos says it is study. So, that is why you call this to be as arthrology. Now, how many types of the joints can we categorize this into? One, it is an immovable joint. You say it is fibrous joint. Partially the movement can be seen. You say semi-movable joints and they are cartilaginous joints. And here freely movable joints which are present, they are lodged with the synovial fluid and we say they are synovial joints. Okay? So, fibrous joints, cartilaginous joint and then the synovial joint. Where do we find this fibrous joints? I have explained you about the skull bones. So, in the skull bones there will be the frontal bone, parietal bone, temporal bone. All these bones, they are just fused with each other by the help of a joint which does not move, and that joint is the fibro joint. Cartilaginous joint, where do we find this? Can you just look at this diagram? Can you remember what it is? It is the vertebral column. The intervertebral discs do have such a type of joint. So, they are partially movable. So, that is why they are semi-movable cartilaginous joints. Coming to the freely movable joints, they are the synovial joints. Something is available here. Can you guess what it is? It is a pelvic girdle. So, to which there is the head of the femur bone getting articulated. The cavity that is present here acetabulum. Okay? So, now let us start studying about each of the bones here. The saddle joint. See here, beautifully the names have been given. Saddle joint. Makle, saddle andre eno? You see, ee kudrena hattuvaga ಆ ಸ್ಯಾಡಲ್ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದನ್ನು ಹಾಕಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಲು ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೊವಿಷನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಕಾಲಿಟ್ಟು ಕುದುರೆನ ಮೌಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ನಂತರ ಆ ಸ್ಯಾಡಲ್ನ ನೀವು ಹೇಗೆ ಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು? ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಸೈಡ್ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೈ ದ mobility of this particular joint forwards, backwards and sidewards. That's why they say it's a saddle joint. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗಿದು? So, it is in the thumb portion, the metacarpal of the thumb. Try forwards, backwards and sidewards. So, this is a saddle joint. Come to the next one, it's a gliding joint. So, here in the gliding joints, where do you find it? In the wrist bone. You can just glide. So, the movement is visible here. See here, in two different planes you can find the movement here. So, it is the gliding joint. In the wrist bones, we find the presence of the gliding joint. Then, pivotal joint. What do you mean by the word pivot? Just mount. ಈ ಫಿಸಿಕಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಆ ಫಿಸಿಕಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸಿನ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ನೀಡ್ಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ವೆಯ್ಟ್ದು ಏನು ಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಇದೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಪಿವೋಟ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಅಣಿಸೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಪಿವೋಟ್. ಆ ಪಿವೋಟಲ್ ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ವೇರ್ ದ ಸ್ಕಲ್ is just placed over the vertebra. The first vertebra of the vertebral column, you just say atlas and axis, the first and second, over which the skull is positioned. So, it is freely movable. So, you say it is a pivotal joint just placed over it. Nodi, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೋನ್ ಟು ಬೋನ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು ಯಾವುದು? ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಲಿಗಮೆಂಟ್. ಈ ಸಣ್ಣ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಹುಟ್ಟಿದಾಗ ಇನ್ನೂ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ಆ ಲಿಗಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗಿರಲ್ಲ, ಟೆಂಡಾನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗಿರಲ್ಲ. ಹುಡುಗಾಟಿಕೆಗೆ ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಆ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಹೀಗೆ ಎತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೀಗೆ ಅಂದ ಕೂಡಲೇ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ ಮಗುಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೂ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಫಿಕ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಆಗಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ದ ಪಿವೋಟಲ್ ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ವೆರಿ ಫರ್ಮ್ ದೇರ್. ಸೊ ಕತ್ತು ನಿಂತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಪಿವೋಟೆಡ್ ಓವರ್ ದಿ ವರ್ಟಿಬ್ರಾ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್, come to this hinge joint. What do you call this? Hinge joint. ಎಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಹೆಸರಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಿಂಜ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ಆ ಬಾಗಿಲುಗಳನ್ನು ವಾಸ್ಕಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಕೂರಿಸುವಾಗ ಹಿಂಜಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಬಾಗಿಲು ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್ ಹೇಗಿದೆ, ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಮತ್ತು ಹಿಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟೇ. ಹಾಗೆ ಈ ಹಿಂಜ್ ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಎಲ್ಬೋ ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಿ ನೀ ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್, it just allows the forward and the backward movement. So that's why we call the elbow joint to be as a hinge joint. Next, ball and socket joint. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ, ball and socket joint. ಇಲ್ಲಿ this is the movement in all three planes. The shoulder and the hip joints are ball and socket joints. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಪ್ಪ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, in a pectoral girdle you can find there is a glenoid cavity. The ball or the head of the humerus is being fixed over there. Just IPL match ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ, ಒಬ್ಬ ಬೌಲರ್ನ ನೋಡಿ, ಆ ಬೌಲರ್ ಬಾಲ್ನ ಬೌಲ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ almost all the planes ನಲ್ಲಿ, 3 planes ನಲ್ಲಿ he will be moving his hand, and that's because of the presence of this ball and socket joint. So ಹಾಗೆ the same is available in the head of the femur bone articulating with the acetabulum that is there in the pelvic girdle. Illi kuda ashte, it is ball and socket joint that is available. Well children, this is an overall view of various types of the joints that are present within our body. So these joints enable in the movement along with the action of the muscles. So both muscles as well as the bones are responsible for the locomotion of an individual. Seeing that, pivotal joint, ball and socket joint, hinge joint, saddle joint, gliding joint and condyloid joint. So illi I'd be failing in my duty if I don't tell you that in small children, so what we are seeing here, the ball and the socket joints, so they are very tender. ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಹಾರಿಸಿ ಹೀಗೆ ಹಿಡಿಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ. If it is not firm, you might see the child down and the hands in your hand. So that might be a case. That's why handling small children, you should know that you'll have to be careful, because most of the bones, they are not yet firmly fused with each other. That's why in an adult it is 206 bones, but in small children it is 300 bones that we get. And that was about the study of the skeleton. Thank you children. There is a word here, have a good heart. You need to have a good heart, because the skeletal body always is called a ghost and not a human being. Okay, that's it. Thank you.